Oh, hi, Blaze.
Oh, hi, Hanno.
And welcome back to the 12 Pods of Christmas. Today doing the 10th Pod of Christmas.
The 10th. Wow, that's a lot. We've done a lot of these.
10 episodes. I mean, we are... Are we recording too many episodes too quickly? Admittedly, these are going out one day after the other. The payoff is there. We don't have to record these for 15 minutes at a time, you know, because, a recording session for these goes for 15 minutes. The episodes don't even go for that long.
Yep.
We're not doing this day by day.
Yeah.
Because fuck that.
Either way, back on topic.
Anyway.
What did True Love get for you today?
Today, my true love gave to me 2 Lethal Weapons.
Oh.
Technically just Lethal Weapon, not Lethal Weapon 2. So why don't we make that confusing? No, Lethal Weapon. Hey, bamboozle everyone.
Yeah.
2 Lethal Weapons in Lethal Weapon 1, but it's not called Lethal Weapon 1, it's just called Lethal Weapon. You haven't watched this movie.
I haven't.
Not for a long time.
Very long time.
I rewatched it 2 nights ago. I'm a huge fan of the Lethal Weapon movies. Like, I've loved them since I was a kid. This one's not my favourite one, but I do really enjoy this film. It's you talk about chemistry in movies. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover had it in absolute truckloads.
Yep. One of the iconic buddy cop duos.
If not, I'm going to say the iconic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan.
Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, but I mean film, not TV. If you're going to go the iconic, you know, film buddy cop duos, these guys are it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So unfortunate loving these movies when you've now got Mel Gibson and everything that's gone on with him in them.
I mean, he is a classic example of, and we haven't really got onto it in our podcast much, but there is a thing where there are just a lot of phenomenal, great actors who are in some great movies who are just colossal dickbags.
I mean, we're going to say his name 2 episodes in a row. Kevin Spacey.
Yep.
Like, one of the great actors, also one of the great fuckwits.
Yep. He is a prime example of it.
Yep. I mean, you talk Marlon Brando was even one of those. Like, he's one of those guys who was just he was abusive and horrible to women on set.
Yep.
But could act his ass out.
And I put Tom Cruise in that list as well.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Cruise isn't as deliberately dickish.
Yeah, he runs a cult.
But the proponent of a cult, and not a pleasant one. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm still quite happy to call him a massive dickbag.
That's fine. You can put him in the dickbag category. That's all right. But no, Mel Gibson is in that list.
Yep.
He's done a couple of bits and pieces. He's actually probably got more acclaim recently for directing, more so than acting. Like, he was the director of Hacksaw Ridge, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think it might have won an Oscar. If not, it was at least nominated for Oscars, that movie. So it's... but this is Mel Gibson in the late 80s and early 90s. I think this movie was 88. This came out.
Yep.
He is... You can see the craziness in Mel Gibson in this film. The thing that we now know is actually there, he just brings to the surface in this film.
Yep.
It's the same as when you see him in Braveheart as William Wallace losing his shit, and you go, that's a man I wouldn't want to cross anywhere. Yep. That's what you're getting in this film. So, for anyone who hasn't seen it, and this one I'm going to forgive people, this is the second to last Christmas adjacent movie that we're going to talk about.
Yep.
Christmas is happening the whole time in this film. It starts with Christmas music and ends with Christmas music. I'm saying flat out it's a Christmas movie. But this is an older film. A lot of people we know probably haven't seen it, and I'm not going to judge them for this one. I can understand you missing it. The last one of these came out in 1998.
Yep, it's been a while.
It's been a fair while since these were going. And in fact, this might have even been earlier than 88. Maybe I'm thinking of another movie we're going to do. But Lethal Weapon is about... so you've got Danny Glover, who, again, fantastic in this movie. is an elder retiring cop. Actually, I don't know if he's retiring at this stage. I think he's an elder cop.
He was 3 days from retirement.
No, I think that's in the third one. He's 3 days from retirement. But he's an elder cop who is assigned a new partner. His partner is Martin Riggs, played by Mel Gibson. No one wants to partner with Riggs because he has had a bit of a mental break since the death of his wife. He's suicidal. There's a whole scene, a very tense scene at the start of this movie, where he's literally sitting in the caravan, or the trailer it would be in America, loading a gun with a single bullet and putting the barrel of the gun in his mouth, and then just deciding not to kill himself.
Yep.
And you can tell he's kind of unhinged with criminals because of a scene at the start where in a drug deal or a drug bust gone wrong, 3 of the crooks die. One of them, he encourages one of them to shoot him, and then when he gets the gun off of him, puts it under his chin and is about to pull the trigger until some other cops run in to stop him. Like, he has lost his mind. They get paired together to investigate the death of a young prostitute who appears to have committed suicide, but was going to die anyway because she'd been poisoned. She didn't know that necessarily, but she was going to die either way. She is tied in through a connection with her father to Murtaugh, to Danny Glover's character, who has asked him to look out for his daughter, but he doesn't get the chance to get there in time.
Yep.
It's a weird scenario, but it ends up being there's a huge heroin importation scheme that they get dragged into.
Drugs are bad.
And
okay.
And your catchphrase?
Hijinks ensue.
Full-on hijinks ensue in this one.
Explosive hijinks.
Explosive hijinks. These movies ended up becoming comedy buddy cop movies.
Yep.
This one is less explicitly a comedy, but it has its fairly entertaining moments.
Hadn't quite jumped the shark from action into comedy yet.
No, but they've always balanced the comedy quite well in these movies. Like, there's just a scene when they're in a firing range in this movie, and Riggs has been revealed that he is effectively a sharpshooter. And he was during, I can't remember, I think it's the Vietnam War, he was a sharpshooter. And he reveals at one point in high wind he shot a man with one bullet from 1,000 yards out. And he's one of possibly 10 people in the world that could have made that shot. So at the firing range, and he shows his prowess to Murtaugh. And Murtaugh goes, "Watch this," sends the thing out, the target out a little way, and fires a bullet directly into the centre of the head of the target. Riggs pushes the thing out to as far as it can go, fires 7 shots, brings it back, and when it comes back, he's fired 2 eyes and a smiley face onto the target. And that's literally just to show how good he is, but it's done for comedy as well. But these two, as I said, chemistry for days. You don't make 4 of a thing without there being a reason for it.
Yeah.
Unless they're rush hour movies, and then you make 3 movies when you should have stopped at 1. Yeah. Chris Tucker. Don't. Yeah.
I love Rush Hour.
The Rush Hour movies were an attempt to do a semi-fish out of water movie
mixed with Lethal
Weapon. But Chris Tucker, in my opinion, is playing the Chris Rock character from the 4th Lethal Weapon movie. The loud and obnoxious young guy who is supposed to be funny but is really just loud and obnoxious, but that's beside the point.
That's what Chris Tucker plays.
That's just what Chris Tucker is, and that's why I don't really watch anything that he's in. So let's get off of Rush Hour, because I will rant about that. It's you say Christmas adjacent, but there's things that both of the main characters have to learn in this movie. Murtaugh, being the sort of by-the-book, older, seasoned cop, has to learn to accept that there might be a different way of doing things. Unfortunately, he probably learns the wrong lesson, because the lesson he learns from Riggs is kill everybody. Is literally, the whole thing is, we are judge, jury, and executioner, but it's also he is taught sometimes you have to be harsh to finish. Riggs learns he's not alone in the world and that there are people he can still learn to care about people again. It's actually genuinely kind of a moving scenes.
He learned to feel again.
Well, at the end of so there's a scene in the movie where they're having an argument, they're yelling, and Riggs says it's something like, "Do you want to hear me say that sometimes I think about eating a bullet?" And then he, without hesitation, pulls out of his pocket a single bullet. Goes, "Look at this hollow tip. This is the bullet I've got for the occasion. And it's hollow tip so that when it happens, it won't just kill me; it'll blow my fucking brains out." And that shakes Murtaugh, and Riggs sort of puts the bullet away. And at the very end of the movie, at the resolution of the whole story, Riggs goes to Murtaugh's daughter, knocks on the door. His daughter arrives at the door, and he says, "Give this to your dad," and it's a bullet wrapped in a ribbon. And he says, "I don't need this anymore."
Yep.
And it's just it's a very nice moment, but it's not given focus. I think is probably the way it should have. It's not. That's one of those moments that probably could have had a very emotional moment where he handed it to Murtaugh and Murtaugh got all emotional and realised what they meant to each other. Instead, it's just played off as "I've learned my lesson. Here you go." And that's not a bad thing in this case. I think it's actually it's quite nice.
Yep.
But yeah. So I mean, for me, you haven't watched it for a while, so I don't know what your. Oh, okay, so we've done genres. Well, let's do this. It's buddy cop. It's a buddy cop Christmas movie.
Absolutely.
It's actually got some really good performances. Gary Busey plays kind of the main henchman in this movie, but is also the most what's the phrase I'm looking for? His most prominent villain in this. There is a guy running things in the background. But Gary Busey's kind of mercenary hitman.
He's the Vader.
Very much so, yes. That's a very good way of putting it. And is sort of Riggs's counterpart, where he's the... he was in the war. He was in Vietnam. He is an excellent sharpshooter. They both served in special forces and did work for the CIA. And they're the opposing forces here. Those are the... And they literally have, in a thing that would never happen in today's world because there's cameras everywhere and there's regulations that need to be followed. When there's all the cops come to arrest this guy, it's the end of the movie, he's the only one left. Instead of just arresting him or shooting him, they go to Riggs, "Why don't you beat him up?" And Riggs is beating him up. They're bare knuckle fighting. It gets to a point where Riggs has the opportunity to strangle this guy to death and is going to do it and is being encouraged by everyone around to kill this guy, but doesn't do it. It's America, exactly, particularly LA, but doesn't do it and, again, has learned a lesson. You kind of see in that, be a good cop. Don't be a rogue, shitty cop. But it's kind of full on in that way. But it's good. It's the sort of movie, and it's such a product of the late 80s. This movie, the soundtrack, this movie also is Shane Black, who we talked about in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He's associated with this film because this was the first film he wrote, I believe. It's what broke him into Hollywood. So, that's a pretty good pedigree to have. Lethal Weapon as your first film, but it's not getting thumbs up necessarily. You know what? It's getting 1 thumb up for Christmas. It's 2 thumbs up for quality of film.
That's fair.
Despite the unfortunate appearance of Mel Gibson, but Mel Gibson couldn't do a lot wrong there for a little while.
Yeah, there was a point where he was the it actor.
Yeah, sporting a spectacular mullet in this film. Like proper, you could, oh man, it wasn't hard to tell he was Australian from this film because this is like a full Chris Franklin bloke mullet that he's wearing, and it's glorious.
Australia.
It's so spectacular. What about, from your memory of this film, do you have any thoughts on it at all? Or
Not really. It didn't make that much of an impression on me.
Yeah.
But it has been a very long time.
This is one of those films, and this is where I am starting to see a lot from... she gets referenced a lot, a 12-year-old co-worker, Kirsty, who tells you she's seen heaps of movies but then hasn't seen any movies. And will tell you she doesn't need to see a movie because she gets the gist.
Yep.
When she doesn't get the gist. But the thing she said to me the other day was, why am I watching movies that were made so long before I was born? She's kind of got a point.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm actually putting this. This is recorded and she can play this back to me. I get what she's saying. But I also believe if that's your attitude towards film, you are missing out on some of the best films ever made.
Absolutely.
So, The Wizard of Oz was made before I was born. The Wizard of Oz was made before most people I know was born. Does that mean no one should watch it?
Yep. I'm pretty sure that was made before most people that are alive today.
Correct. That's one of those movies that I'm not avoiding those sorts of films just because it was made a long time ago. Quality doesn't have an age. This is one of those movies I'll put in that list. But I will say I understand why it's not as well known and it's not as popular, but it also probably loses its status as one of those movies you probably should watch because of its impact.
Yep.
This defined the buddy cop film becoming comedic and having that heart and emotion to it, not just, what is it, Stallone and Kurt Russell shooting the place up in, I can never remember, Tango and Cash.
Classic.
We vary on what a classic is. But no, look, so I'm saying, great movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Watch particularly the first three. The fourth one's all right, but yeah. That's pretty much how I feel on this one. So that's it for the Lethal Weapon today. What will we be discussing next tomorrow?
We're going Disney.
Yeah.
With The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. No, this is a blaze episode.
It is a me episode.
And we will have another guest. Well, when I say another guest, the same guest we've had on for a couple of days. My daughter's probably going to pop in for this one too. So...
Yep.
Thanks again for listening, and thanks for being here, Blaze.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you, and we will catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of our 12 Pods of Christmas, a special series as part of the Breakdown the Universe podcast. If you would like to comment on anything that you've heard, have any questions, or just like to get involved, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X/Twitter, or TikTok. Or, if you'd like to watch us talking at each other, please follow us on YouTube. Alternatively, you can send us an email with any feedback, questions, or to suggest a topic at breakdowntheuniverse@gmail.com.au. From Blaze and Henno, happy Robonica.